This is the third cell I was in for 100 days. Tomorrow you will go for interrogation, but you have to speak in Russian because they will beat you. There were bullets and blood on the walls, and I was interrogated twice in that room too. I looked out of this window to freedom. I wanted to see the sun. My family, my wife.
The city of Balaklia, Kharkiv region, Izyum district, was occupied by the Russian Regular Army for 191 days from March 2 to September 8, 2022. Anatolii Harahatyi, 70, was held in a Russian torture chamber in Balaklia for more than half of the occupation period, 100 days. This is the longest term of imprisonment among the detainees in this place. After being tortured with electric shocks, numerous bullying and promises to kill him for his pro-Ukrainian position, Anatolii Harahatyi did not cooperate with the occupiers and refused to shoot a propaganda video about the Russian army and authorities.
I took the camera and went to the balcony, took a step like this, and he started filming. And I started filming from here. I realized they couldn't see me. I see them. It was March. The occupiers entered Savintsy.
On March 2, 2022, a resident of the village of Savintsy, Anatolii Harahatyi, filmed the movement of a column of Russian equipment from his balcony and posted the video on YouTube. The man had been working as a photographer for over 50 years, and 2 years before the war started, he opened his YouTube channel and became a blogger. During the occupation, Harahatyi made films about how the Russian army entered his native land and how people in Savintsy resisted. For this, the Russians took him to an isolation center, where Anatolii spent 100 days. They considered him the biggest Banderite of the Balaklia community.
I'm going to a familiar place to see where I've been. For 100 days. This is the third cell I was in for 100 days. We open it and go. There is no light, of course. And this is a familiar place. This is the bed on which I was placed when I arrived. They put me on or I sat down. And the guy started asking me why I was in prison. I had 7 people in front of me and I told them what happened and how it happened. They said that tomorrow you will go for interrogation, but you have to speak Russian because they will beat you for the Ukrainian language. Well, I laughed, I thought it was true, but when I got to the interrogation, that's what happened. For every Ukrainian word, there were to be tased. That's how I learned Russian. Now I have forgotten a little bit, but I had to learn it. I can lie down here. This is my place. I slept here on the floor. They put, well, a jacket. They put their clothes under their heads and slept on the floor wearing whatever they could. Because when we were boys, 6 out of 8 people smoked. And I lead a healthy lifestyle. It was hard to breathe. I was constantly standing by the window. They would drive me away. I looked out of this window to freedom. I wanted to see the sun. My family, my wife.
8 people were held in a cell for 3 people. We slept on the concrete floor and shared things with each other. They gave us food and drink, but taking a shower and washing was a very difficult task.
There was rarely any water about a year ago. The temperature was up to 40 degrees. The humidity here was 80, so we soaked the water with newspapers and twisted it out. This is our calendar. This is how we marked our calendar. A day passed, Rakar I Kiridowicz. A task as you crossed out. A day passed, it's crossed out. This was written after us, but we live by this calendar. We used to bathe here. We stood over the ocean, took a 2-liter jar of water and bathed. If there was water, we bathed. And if not, it was also often once a week. Bathe 2 liters of water per person. For a week, the heat is 30-40 degrees, so how can you survive here? And we did. And this is the spoon they used to hang clothes on. Or who came in? What? So they hung them up and then spread them on the floor in the evening. We were sleeping on the floor like this, wearing only pants and a shirt.
Artem was in another cell in the Balaklia torture chamber. He was taken for photographs of his brother, who serves in the Ukrainian armed forces. The man had heard about Harahatyi, that the pensioner had been imprisoned for a long time, but he himself had been waiting for interrogation for 45 days.
After 45 days, they summoned me for interrogation, connected me to electricity, interrogated me for hours. And the most interesting thing is that they didn't even ask about my brother, nothing like that. They asked where he was serving, I said in Kiev, and that was it.
Albina works at the Balaklia Emergency Service Unit. She and her colleague were taken from their workplace. They didn't beat her, but they emotionally exhausted her, and she waited for interrogation for almost a week.
I expressed my opinion during the occupation, which should not have been made public. This is a life hack for the future. But I was not silent. I did not want to see the soldiers of the Russian Federation here. I did not want to live on the territory of Russia. I expressed my opinion by all means. It's constantly, you are waiting for interrogation. Any rustle outside the door, that is, you are waiting. Here they are, coming for you. And this uncertainty. It was scary because you heard the sounds from the interrogation room all the time. You tried it on yourself. How will you react? Will you be able to withstand it? The sounds of torture, beatings, rape. Well, everything possible. They used all kinds of violence against both women and men.
During his captivity, Harahatyi survived 8 interrogations of 4 hours each. The Russian military beat him mercilessly, with bats all over his body, connected electric wires, demanded that he admit to being a corrector of the Ukrainian armed forces, and promised to shoot him.
Grandpa, let's go. You go out and put a bag over your head. And now I can see where we were taken. What room we were taken to? There was a passport office and interrogation rooms, and there was one room with everything is laid out, bullets and blood on the walls. I was interrogated twice in that room too. Do you want your blood to be here? Tell me. If you don't want to, don't. And I had to tell them about Bandera. Well, they forced me to work for them, to film their army. Praise the army, but I refused. That's why I was in prison for so long. They told me in the evening, Grandpa, get ready tomorrow. We'll let you out tomorrow. The fact is that I served the most time here, 100 days. As the biggest Nazi and Banderite in the Balaklia district. Grandfather is 70 years old, and I'm ashamed of him for the Russian army. It's already been broadcast on the cameras that my grandfather is a hero. They started laughing at them or something, I don't know. In general, I was released on September 4, and Balaklia was released on September 7. They knew they would be chased and prepared for it.
In captivity, Harahatyi lost 10 kilograms. They just took him out of the torture chamber and said, Go. They did not return any documents or stolen personal belongings. He did not sign any protocols. No document was provided to explain on what grounds he was illegally detained and tortured for 100 days. Even 9 months after his release, Anatolii cannot hold back his tears as he talks about himself and his tortured compatriots.
I'm already on the positive side. The fact is that over the past 9 months I have. I've seen so much that I'm afraid for myself. Excuse me, this is it, this presence here. I saw enough ruins in 9 months, filmed about several hundred interviews, and listened to a lot. These are non-humans. They cannot be called human beings. And that's what we called them here, non-humans.
Investigative actions are still ongoing on the territory of the police department in Balaklia, where the Russian invaders organized their headquarters during the occupation and set up a prison in the basement.
In the first days after the deoccupation, law enforcement officers recorded war crimes. At the police station, we found out that it was a torture chamber. All this was recorded and entered into the Unified Register of Pre-Trial Investigations. Then all the information and criminal proceedings were transferred to the jurisdiction to the Security Service of Ukraine. We can only guess what people went through here because the picture was very scary. There were all kinds of inscriptions on the walls, even a prayer that you saw. That is, they were praying, and maybe they didn't even realize it. Whether they would be able to wake up the next day. They counted the days using marks on the wall. People are still applying, and we continue to record and work on it.
On the 13th, I shot the first one across the lineman and it was broken. On the 16th, I planned to go to Izyum.
A week after his release, Anatolii Harahatyi picked up the camera he had borrowed from his friends and began filming traces of the Russian peace in the deoccupied territories. He filmed Balaklia, Izyum, Kupyansk, including abandoned and smashed houses, deserted villages, and mined areas. His goal now is to post small videos about the life of the community on his channel. And after winning, he dreams of playing football at the stadium in his native Savintsy.
This is my whole life. This is the golden ball. I was awarded in 1987 as the best scorer in the village of Savintsy. Blukin played there, and we played here in the village, defending our honor. Everything has its time. At the age of 70, life is just beginning, and you have to rebuild the country. What country will we pass on to our children and grandchildren? This is the most important thing.
After the deoccupation, law enforcement officers discovered 2 torture chambers in Balaklia. According to the Kharkiv Oblast Police Investigation Department, information on the exact number of people who were captured and tortured in Balaklia is constantly being updated. The Security Service of Ukraine has already served a notice of suspicion to the Russian commandant of Balaklia, Kharkiv region, who tortured Ukrainian citizens during the occupation of the town. His identity has been established and investigative actions are ongoing.